Welcome to the Kentucky Kid. I'm your host, Kelly Berry, and this is the third installment of the show. Thank you for joining me. I usually don't start my show with funny stories, but this one I just could not pass up. The Brooklyn Nets Public Relations Department tweeted a statistic about their team. A tweet so amazing that I've tried to formulate an idea for an award that I could give them for it. It is a tweet that's so spectacular that I don't know what to name this award. Mike and Mike in the Morning on ESPN Radio has the Just Shut Up award claimed already, so I can't use that. But the quote of the tweet, I quote the Public Relations Department. The Brooklyn Nets are 32-0 when outscoring opponents this season. Really? I would hope so, because that's kind of how the game is supposed to work. Breaking news, they also hired Bobby Knight as their play-by-play commentator, so now they can have a PR department that doesn't know that, you outscore your opponent when you win a game, and then they would have a commentator that doesn't know what a shot clock is. On that funny note, it's been a crazy, crazy year in the world of college sports. We had 5 straight weeks where a number 1 team went down. We have constant road upsets, and many other things have shaken up what we thought to be a fairly predictable year coming in. I took a look at the preseason top 25 and compared it to what it is now. This is the list of the teams that were in the top 25 when the season began that aren't there now. UK at number 3, gone. North Carolina State, ranked number 6 in the preseason. North Carolina was 11. UCLA 13, Missouri 15, Creighton 16, UNLV 18, Baylor 19, San Diego State 20, Cincinnati 24, and Florida State 25. Count them, that's 11 teams. 11 that were in the preseason top 25 that are not there as of now. It is shaping up, too, to be a year of the mid-major. 38 teams right now are receiving votes in the AP poll. Of those 38, 13 of them are from non-major conferences. Leading the way is Gonzaga at 3, but they are not alone in the top 25. Joined by Butler, New Mexico, Memphis, Colorado State, and Virginia Commonwealth. 6 of the top 25 are mid-major schools. 5 straight weeks of number 1 upsets. March is going to be upset mania, and I have a feeling that it is going to start well before the actual NCAA tournament starts. I think a lot of bubbles will be popped in the conference tournament. Remember back in 2010 when Gonzaga was a clear lock to be in the tournament, and all they had to do to reinforce a good seed into a great one was beat St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference tournament. St. Mary's wasn't a lock. They had to win that game to get in, and they did. And someone that was resting on the bubble that would have been safe, had Gonzaga won that game against St. Mary, suddenly was no longer in the NCAA tournament. With all of that said, there is a major, major tournament shakeup game coming up this Saturday that's coming out of the Mountain West Conference when the New Mexico Lobos face the Colorado State Rams. In their first matchup, New Mexico won 66-61, but they nearly blew a 22-point lead in the second half at home. This is an interesting matchup for several reasons, though. Number 1, it's a conference tournament, probably rematch of what's to come in the conference tournament championship game. These are the 2 by far best teams in that tournament. Colorado State puts up 74 points a game. They rank 40th in the country in that department. They don't shoot the ball well. What they do is rebound well. They get over 43 boards a game. That's tops in the country. They're also getting nearly 15 rebounds offensively. They're what Dick Vitale would call Windex guys. They're a team that has great scoring balance. 4 guys average more than 10 points a game, and the 5th guy on the scoring list averages 9.9, so it may as well be 5. On the other end, New Mexico really doesn't score that well. They average less than 67 a game. They rank 129th in the country in total rebounds. They shoot barely over 41%. They're one of those teams that wins games with grit. They kind of remind you of Miami. They don't turn the ball over that much, and they turn you over a lot. Should be a very interesting game. If Colorado State wins, and I think they will, they avoid getting swept by the Lobos, and they take a half-game lead in the conference with 4 games remaining. If New Mexico wins, they solidify their position in the Mountain West and may push for a 3 or even a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Their RPI is 3rd in the country. They have no losses outside of the top 70 of the RPI, and they have good wins at Cincinnati, and they've beaten UConn at home. It's a very, very solid resume. But the Mountain West Conference, speaking of, is a very interesting conference to me. They could potentially get 4 teams in the tournament. Colorado State and New Mexico, as I've mentioned, are locks. But it's really hard to argue against San Diego State and UNLV. The Aztecs of San Diego State spanked, New Mexico at home, 55-34. They've beaten Colorado State. Their worst losses at Air Force, a team that doesn't have a bad RPI and could push for a late tournament run this season. The Aztecs' RPI is strong at 31, but they need a good road win to solidify their case. Their best win away from home has been at Southern Cal, and that's a team that's got a lot of work to do, and I mean a lot, before they get into the tournament. If they win this game at New Mexico coming up later in their season, they should be a lock as well. If not, they have to make some conference tournament noise to solidify their case. UNLV is a puzzling team too, in the sense that they have a really, really bad loss at Fresno State, but they have a lot of good wins. They've swept San Diego State, and they have wins at home against New Mexico and Iowa State. They have 9 wins versus the RPI top 100. This is a team that's tournament security depends entirely on what the committee is looking for. There have been committees in the past that have looked at strength of schedule dominantly. The Rebels is at 23. There have been others that have concentrated solely on RPI. UNLV's RPI is 18. But there are others that look for quality wins away from home. Something that, much like conference counterpart San Diego State, UNLV doesn't have much of. The key for the Rebels is going to be in a 3-game stretch where they play road games at Wyoming, at Nevada, and at Boise State. It's all about taking care of business for the Rebels. If they can get all 3 of those wins, they should be a lock. And we could see 4 teams coming from a mid-major conference in the Mountain West. It's been a year, though, where few teams have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. It's been mentioned that we don't have that Kentucky from a year ago, a team that just stands above all of the others and says, I am the clear-cut championship favorite. One local team that's begun to separate themselves a lot, though, from the rest of the field has been Indiana, and it's a team that I have yet to talk about at this point. It hasn't been out of hatred for the Hoosiers, I promise you. I like watching this team. It's just that up until this point, I really didn't know what to make of them. They play a lot of close games. 8 of their 14 contests have been within 10 points or less in the conference. They shoot the ball very well, scoring nearly 83 points a game and hitting 50% of their shots. They're a great 3-point shooting team as well, but they tend to play down to lesser competition. Georgetown took them to overtime. Butler beat them in overtime. They lost to a desperate Illinois club. I'm not saying, and I'm not really sold on the fact that this team is a championship contender as of now. And the reason why is because I still think Cody Zeller is vastly overrated, and this is a team that can get beat by anybody when that 3-point shot isn't falling. But I'm beginning to board the Hoosier bandwagon after they capped the season sweep against Michigan State. Victor Oladipo is a beast, probably the most underrated player in the country.